Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new tutorial on Minecraft 2D. This is Nodejs and we're gonna start with episode 4. Now, episode 4 is going to cover up the chunk system. And yeah, I'm not sure how long this video will be, but I'm trying to get the pace through. So let me just, yes, okay. So, the chunk system. Let me just fire it up real quick. And what we need, I noticed a spelling mistake here, so th for the game data.json as well. It wasn't needed previously, but we are going to need it right now because the chunk size will matter on the terrain generation. Now, I don't know what's happening. Oh yeah, I was zoomed out for quite a bit. Okay, so let's get started. Of course, we are going to create two new files. One, a chunk.ts, and one is going to be block.ts. Now, they both will export their own name, and they both will have a constructor. They also both will have an x and a y value, and also in the parameters. Now, copy this one, place it in here, say chunk. Now, the block will also come with block data. We've already created this object, so we can simply import it. Well, we're not going to import the actual block data, we're just going to import the logic for the block data. And this block data equals block data. So let's just copy this actually. Let's say chunk. Actually make it game data. Cool. Okay. So now we have the chunk, we have the block. We need to add one more thing to our block. We're gonna say public sprite, and we're gonna say this.sprite equals new sprite this.blockdata.texture. Since we have the sprite, we can now easily say this.sprite equals this.width, and here we need to say this.width, here we need to say height. So in here we will have a width number and a height number. And this will be our entire block logic for now. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the chunk. This is the place where we will, oh yeah, the chunk will also have a width and a height, but it will not be in the parameter list because it will be inherited from the game data. Game data.chunk size.width and height. So that's it. Now we are going to generate the world in every chunk. So we're not going to generate the world inside our world object, as you might think, because every chunk will basically generate their own blocks. So every chunk will have a block map. So this is a 2D array, and currently it's empty. You can access it by giving an x and a y value to the array. So basically what you would say, eventually you would say block map and then x plus comma plus y, and then you would access that particular block, for example to render the sprite or do whatever. Okay, so let's go to the world, and what we are going to do here, we are actually going to change some of the values here, because as you can see here, well, this is not very clear. Let's go to Minecraft altitude. So as you can see here, y is going up, which is pretty logic, but in case of the canvas, 0, 0 is on the left top corner right there, and once you go down with your mouse, the y value will only decrease. So we need to multiply both the view y and the player sprite y by -1. So this way our player will end up going in the right direction. Now we can delete that. What we can do here is we can render our chunks. So we can actually create our chunks or render our chunks, whatever you want to call it. We can just say this.render chunks. So what this is going to do is this is going to fire up a function that we have not yet created, and we are going to create that right now. Where are we going to put that logic? Let's put it right here. So we can say private render chunks equals void, since we're not gonna return anything, and in here we are going to get a few extra variables. So let's say data, this is a game data, and this will be game data, because we're gonna exit the game data a lot in here, so that's useful. So this will be the render distance, which is a number, and now we're already accessing the game data. And we also have a chunk player x, like a player chunk x more likely, which is a number, and we have a player chunk y, which is also a number. Now we will both say moth.round this.player.x divided by this.chunkSize. I mean data.chunkSize.width. Now this will obviously be y, and this will obviously be height. Now we're going to create two for loops, one for the x-axis and one for the y-axis. The first one is going to start at the player chunk x position minus the render distance, and guess where it's going to end? Plus the render distance. We're going to do the same thing for the y value. Now this is the place where we are going to create a new chunk, but I don't want to create a new chunk on the place that's already a chunk generated. So I'm gonna need to check if there's a chunk on this position, and this is the place where we would get that chunk map. The same one as we did for the block map at the chunk class, but now it's a chunk map. Let's just import the chunk, and while we'll add it, we'll add the block as well. So what we can do now is we can say if it's undefined, because only then we are going to generate a new chunk. And we need to pass in the game and the data and the x and the y value. See, game data, x and y. Now we are going to add this chunk to the chunk map. And after this, we are going to draw the contents of this chunk. But first, no, we can do that right away. So let's go to the chunk, and basically this is the place where you would generate your entire world inside this chunk, of course. So to be useful, I mean, to get the workflow correct, your code flow, whatever you want to call it, we're gonna create a new function that will create the block. So here we will select the block we want to create, and we also specify the position. So it will only draw that block or create that block if it is in this .gameData.blocks. Because if it's not there, then the block is not valid, right? So now let's create the block. This is pretty boring, but the result is astonishing. No, this .gameData.blocks and then the name on X and Y, and then we also need to say this .gameData.block size, this .gameData.block size. So this is the width and the height and the X and the Y position. Okay, and now we can just say this .block map on this X and Y position equals block. Now, create block is not yet called anywhere. So what we can do here is we can generate, we can create a block, right? We're just gonna say this .create block, and what block are we going to create? We're going to create a dirt block, and we are going to create the dirt block on its X position multiplied by this width, and on its Y position multiplied by this Y. Okay, cool. So this will probably create a dirt block, but we have not added the anything yet, and we have a lot of errors, so probably there's something wrong. So there's something wrong in here. Yes, of course. I made a spelling mistake. Oh, I did not. That's weird. So what's the next error? The next error is oh, wow, that's great. Okay. Block is declared, but its value is never used. Yeah, we'll get to that later, so just comment it. Okay, good. Okay, so what we gotta do now, we have the blocks. The blocks have the sprite, if I'm correct. So let's go to the game, let's go to the world, let's go to the chunk map. Oh, those are a lot of chunks, but they only contain one block map with one block in it, and it will have a texture. Yeah, it does. So that's beautiful, actually. So what we can do now is we can draw the blocks. So whenever the chunk is created, we are going to say for chunk the block map So actually this is a constant as well, because this is not going to change inside this variable right there. So we can do that. We can do that here as well. Okay, So we can do that here as well. We can just say constant block and then say this. So this is our block right there. And then we can just say this.app.stage.add child block.sprite. So now it applies right there because the X and Y position of the sprite do not actually have an X and Y position. So we can adjust that right here by saying something crazy with sprite X and sprite Y, stuff like that. We can also do that right here. That's probably the best way to do it. But let me just think of the way that that it needs to be. So yeah, we definitely want to draw it in our, like right here. That's the place where I would place it. Yeah, shall we do it here? And here. So maybe we need to create a function of it. So this the draw blocks. So this will be our function to draw the blocks. Okay. So we have the rendered chunks here, and we have the blocks as well here. So render chunks and draw blocks. Okay. So let's just do that. Okay. Private draw blocks. For. Let's get a for in. And let's use C as key here, because now we are going to go to the chunk map, and I'm going to check the chunk map, and it's going to be like this. Now we are going to say for each block yeah, okay, so okay, now we need to import the block since we are using it, but I don't understand this error right here. Const b in chunk. Element implicitly has an any type because expression of type string can't be used to index type chunk. Oh yeah, of course, because we are going to access the block map here. So like that. Okay, and now what we can do is we can do this. We can say block.sprite.x equals block.x multiplied by this.gameData.blockSize minus this.world.game.view. I mean, we're already in the world. .x. We can do the same thing for y, 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 but here we do need to say multiply by -1. Cool. So that's basically it. I think this will work. So yeah, apparently we have some chunks created, which is great. I do see that we have 3 on the right and top side and 4 on the bottom and left side. So that means that our round is not really the best way to do it. Maybe we should center the chunk size width. So yeah, I gotta think about that. We'll do that later. But for us now, it looks good. So what we can do now is we can say this is the player x plus plus, and it generates the sprites there. And let's check it out if it works the other way. Yes, it totally works. So let's test if we can go diagonal. So I said player y minus minus, and it ends up going down. So that's not the way. See, it's going up, right? Or am I wrong? No, it's going definitely up. So that's not the way I want it to be. So console.log this.player. But the y is going upwards. Oh, yeah, of course. Y plus plus is going up. Y. Oh my god. I'm getting confused by this canvas, man. But as you can see, the chunk system works. And what we can do next is we can create the blocks inside the chunk, and we can actually generate our world. Yeah, this might be a bit boring tutorial, but man, the next tutorial is going to be so freaking amazing. It's going to be fabulous. So I'll see you guys soon. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification button, check me up on Twitter and Patreon, and let me know what you thought about the video, and if you have any suggestions, just leave a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Bye bye.